Hello, and welcome to another edition of Grapevine's Tips and Tricks. I am news editor Andie Sophia Fontaine.
I am culture editor Hannah Jane, and today we're going to be talking about workers' rights and unions in Iceland. Now, this is a super important topic that I really don't think people are educated enough on, because I didn't know a lot of the stuff we're about to talk about for years when I lived here. So
Same. I learned most of this the hard way, as a lot of working people end up doing. If you like content like this and want to see more of it, consider becoming a member of our High Five Club or paying a visit to our shop, or both. Links to that are in the description. In the description.
Also, if you have any ideas or questions you want us to answer for this podcast, just email them in to grapevine@grapevine.res, and we will check them all out. So without further ado, you want to start?
Sure. The first thing to consider is, can you even work in Iceland? If you've arrived from a country in the EU, the EEA, or EFTA, then yes, you can just show up in Iceland and start looking for work. If you're not from these areas, though, you will need to have a job waiting for you before you arrive.
Yeah.
Now, the Directorate of Labor can tell you pretty much everything that you need to know to assist with this. And again, every link that we're going to mention here is going to be in the description as well. There's some exceptions to this, of course, such as if you're married to an Icelandic citizen, you can legally work in Iceland, even if you don't have a kennitala, which is an Icelandic ID number. For that, you would need to talk to the Directorate of Immigration for advice.
I think, the one thing I'd say about Vinnumarkastofnunin and the UTL, the Directorate of Immigration, is if you're interested in immigrating here, I think that'll be a totally different episode. But to talk to them and to be honest and to follow all the rules. There are people from non-EEA, EU, EFTA countries that come here and find jobs and then try and do it all here, and it's not going to work. You should follow the rules. That was a whole nother episode, but I wanted to say that in the beginning, be honest and be transparent with the workers, organizations, and with the government, always.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not just because it's the right thing to do, but also they won't be able to help you if they don't know all the details of your case.
Totally.
So
You're just fucking yourself over. Okay, so let's start.
Yes. Now, unlike a lot of countries in the world, unions are pretty common in Iceland, and most working Icelanders are in a union. Furthermore, even if your specific workplace is not in a union, then the collective bargaining agreement, or CBA, for your trade still applies. So, for example, if you're working in a shop and your shop's not in a union, the CBA for the relevant union, which in this case is VR, still applies to you. So, for the unfamiliar, a collective bargaining agreement is a contract that management and labor work out between each other, defining what their rights and their obligations are between each other. It's got everything in there, like your minimum wage, how many breaks, your sick leave, and things of this nature.
And to simplify for me, because I didn't know anything about unions when I got here, what I learned really is that everyone in Iceland is in a union, basically. And being in a union, I'm looking at this from a state's perspective. Being in a union here is not like it is there where theoretically you might be jeopardizing your job by entering a union, or there might be weird politics involved. That's just a part of life in Iceland. People are in a labor union if they have a job. Can I say that? Jeopardize? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So here it's just that's just a part of life. And the unions offer a ton of really great benefits and stuff. So it's a really good thing to know what your benefits are, which we will now talk about.
Yes. But the first thing is to know what union you're even in. And for that, you should check your pay stub. If you're not getting a pay stub, that's a problem.
Big problem.
You really got to be getting a pay stub, because that will outline where all of your taxes and fees are going. If you're going into a pension fund, if it's paying to the local government, and as well your union dues. The entry on your stub for your union is usually labeled stéttarfélag, which is the Icelandic word for a labor union. If you don't see that on your pay stub, you should contact the Icelandic Confederation of Labor, or ASI, and ask them what union you should be in. So once you know what union you're in, you can Google their name and find their homepage. Two of the bigger ones, which you'll probably be in one of these if you're a foreigner working in Iceland. One of them is Epling, and the other one is VR. Fortunately, both of these unions have translated versions of their CBAs on their websites, so you can check out everything that your boss is supposed to be providing for you, as well as what obligations you have to your workplace, and you can see all that there. But if you don't see a translated copy of the CBA on your union's website, call them and ask.
Oh, yeah. And also, if you need to get a pay stub and you don't know what that is, ask your employer for one. And if your employer says no, problem.
Yes.
Not legitimate. You need to that's a really big problem.
It is a bit shady.
Then you might be getting taken advantage of. And that's something you need to explore more, I suppose. But yeah, pay stub, find your union, talk to them if you don't understand.
Precisely. And I should mention that another good resource, especially for foreign workers in Iceland, is the International Workers of the World, or the IWW. Now, they've been around for over 100 years, and they have a branch here in Iceland. And they're not really a trade union per se. They're more of what's called a solidarity union, in that they educate workers on how they can empower themselves. If you have some sort of problem in your workplace, you can contact them, and they will tell you what your rights are. They can give you advice if your rights are being violated, and they will actively work on your case with you and assist you in any sort of problem that you have going on. They're really good people. I know a lot of them personally. Oh. Now, if it turns out your employer is not keeping up their end of the CBA, you can start by gently pointing out the terms of the contract to your employer.
So this means if you look on your union's website and you find the minimum wages for your experience and your education and you're not being paid that, that's what we mean by violating the terms of the CBA. Or you're not getting the right amount of vacation, et cetera, et cetera. But in Iceland as well, something to say about collective bargaining is that it's incredibly specific. Because if you have your minimum wage that you must get, but if you have a certain education, that means you get more. If you have a master's degree, and if you have X many years you've been working at the company, things need to increase in that order.
Yes.
So you should really make sure. And again, if they're not paying you that's when you need to go to the employer and again, gently suggest that there may be a problem.
Yeah, just to give them the benefit of the doubt, because maybe they're not aware that they have to do X, Y, and Z. They probably are, but start by talking directly to your boss. But granted, a lot of workers are not comfortable with that. Maybe you're scared of your boss. Maybe you're afraid that you're going to lose your job if you make any sort of complaint. In which case you can also, and you absolutely should, contact your union directly, even if you've already talked to your boss, to tell them about this and file a case. And after you file your case, and I can't emphasize this enough, follow up. Keep contacting your union to ask about the progress, because a lot of unions have a lot of casework piling up, and it's good to stay on top of these things. And if you're being kind of, a pain in the ass and calling them a lot, it actually helps move things along in Iceland in general.
Totally. Pro tip, be annoying. Send a lot of emails.
So how to know if your work rights are not being honored? The CBAs will vary from union to union, and you should always check your CBA to make sure your boss is on the up and up. Now, while different contracts for different trades are going to be different, and they're going to vary a little bit, there's a few major points that apply to pretty much everyone because of Icelandic labor laws. The number one tip that I would give you is do not work for cash or in exchange for food and shelter. This should be pretty obvious, I think, but a lot of people who are desperate for a job or desperate to just live in Iceland doing something, they'll fall for this. If some circumstances, if you're a spouse of an Icelander, for example, and you don't have the kennitala yet, you can be paid in cash, but it's generally not a good idea for you because you don't know how much of that has been removed in terms of taxes that need to be paid, and you'll be on the hook for that.
And pension and everything. And the other thing is, I know a lot of people, there's Woofing, Help X, these kind of organizations where you're working in exchange for food and shelter, and you're allegedly supposed to be working only X many hours a day or a week. That's not legal in Iceland.
No.
Woofing is not legal. Even though you go to the woofing website, you're going to see tons and tons of entries for people here. It's not legal as it is in other countries. So like be aware of that. And I mean, in general, woofing is sort of an interesting topic. I've done it. I woofed and I had a great time, but at the same time, you have to be aware that you're not being taken advantage of and you genuinely are only working X many hours. But again, in Iceland, it's not legal. So any of these arrangements people have working for shelter and food, that is not a legal thing, right? Am I making that up?
No,
Okay,
you're not
good.
making it
Thank
up.
God.
I mean, there's some like legitimate international volunteer
For
organizations.
sure, that's, yeah.
But yeah, I would contact ISE to ask them if you're see an ad for, like, for example, working on a horse farm in exchange for food and shelter and some pittance of
Yeah.
money every month. Before you accept that job, as quaint and picturesque and wonderful as it sounds to work on a horse farm, definitely check with ISE first to be sure that this is a
Like a legitimate-
legal situation for
Also,
sure.
as a foreign worker, you don't want to like fuck yourself over here by breaking the law, by breaking labor laws. Like you don't want to be in that position because that will not bode well for you.
No.
You don't want it. Like that's the one thing about, I think, working as a foreigner in another country. Like just follow the laws, and if you don't know if the laws are correct or if you understand them, just ask and do it over email because then you have a paper trail.
Yes.
Fun
That is an
fact:
excellent
paper
point.
trail always. So yeah, don't work for a legitimate, get a pay stub. Try and make sure everything is legitimate. Next, overtime.
Yes, there is minimum wage in Iceland, but here's the interesting thing about it. Whereas in the United States, there's a federally mandated minimum wage, in Iceland, it varies per trade, per job, what your minimum wage is, but that's outlined in your CBA. Overtime. Overtime does exist in Iceland, but it's more than working more hours per month than is full-time. It also, in many jobs, it also pertains to you get an added percentage of your salary if you're working evenings, if you're working nights, if you're working weekends, if you're working holidays. Those are all overtime. So definitely check the CBA to be sure that you're getting paid, and compare it to your pay stub to be sure that you're being paid your overtime accordingly. Likewise, you are entitled to breaks. You're entitled to sick days. I think for most professions, it's 2 days a month sick leave that you're allowed, and vacations. Again, this is included in your CBA.
Yes, and take advantage of that. It's, I think, I mean, again, we're coming from American perspective.
Yeah.
There's some sort of weird, like, I don't know the right word, like people in America seem hesitant to actually take their legally mandated vacation days. Like, don't do that
Yes.
here. Here it's expected. It's not, you're not going to get you're not going to hurt your job, I guess. I know, it's like very sad when you see people not taking their vacation though. 'Cause it's like,
I agree.
who wants to work for a living? Not
Your
me.
value is not based on your level of productivity.
Absolutely. Who wants to work? Not me.
Exactly. I don't have a dream
Yeah.
job.
No, my dream job is winning the lottery.
Yeah. My dream job is having no job
Okay.
at all.
On that note, listen to
On
us
that
talk
note.
about work.
Yeah. And as Hannah touched on, you are entitled to regular pay rises with salaries based on your age, experience, and education.
The thing I would say about this as well is meeting with the union to make sure, like I've gone to our union to make sure everything was correct, that I was getting paid fine and everything was right and done legitimately. Not that I didn't trust the Grapevine. That's not what I mean. Just to make sure, as a foreign worker, to make sure everything was right. And the union looked it over, and like the heads of the union explained everything to me to make sure I understood about the pay raises and all of that. So like, yeah, once again, unions are not here to like fuck you over. They are very, very helpful.
Yes, they are very helpful most of the time. And it's an excellent point about visiting your union too. Like, if you're given a contract, a written contract for your job, and you absolutely should be,
Yes.
do not take verbal agreements
Never.
in terms of terms of your work. A written contract and your CBA, and go to your union, talk to a rep to have them do a point-by-point comparison with your pay stub as well. So your pay stub, your working contract, and the CBA, and they'll compare everything to make sure everything's on the up and up. And if there's something that needs correcting, they'll take care of it.
Absolutely. Next one is, I mean, I wish we didn't have to say this, but
Right.
in your workplace, you should not you should not tolerate sexual harassment, racism, or any type of bigotry.
No.
That should just be a umbrella blanket term. If any of that is happening to you, you need to go to your employer, and if for some reason they don't do anything, you need to go to your union, like
Yeah.
ASAP.
Especially if your employer is the one who is sexually
Oof.
harassing you or is racist or is
Yeah.
making like tasteless jokes in the job. Like if your job has an HR department, you can talk to them. Or if you don't trust them, talk to your union.
Yeah.
Because there's no reason for you to have to tolerate such a work environment and you're protected by law.
And yeah, people take this stuff seriously here.
Yes.
At least not in the government.
Oh, maybe not.
Close to the gate, anyone? Anyway,
Yes.
we just lied. They don't. No,
If you work in Parliament, you may be off the hook completely.
yeah, totally. You can be as sexist as you want.
Yes.
Oh God.
demonstrated.
Anyway, woof. Hot take. Okay.
I mean, it's true though.
Totally. The last tip we have is that you are entitled to a safe work environment. So make sure that your employer is like following all safety standards because you're entitled. Like again, it's people don't take this as a joke here. Unions take this very seriously. If your employer is violating rules and standards and laws, like tell your union.
Yeah.
And they will deal with it. They're not going to be like on the side of the sketchy employer.
Precisely. And even if you're not sure, like, say you're working in a restaurant or something, and you're like, shouldn't there be non-slip rubber mats back here in the kitchen? Like, maybe you don't know, contact the union anyway and ask them. Like, hey, are we supposed to have non-slip rubber mats behind the line here? Because I'm carrying, like, giant pots of boiling grease and stuff. And chances, I mean, yes they're supposed to have rubber
yes.
mats. But if you're unsure, contact the union. So in general, you should talk to the IWW. You should find out what your union is and talk to them. And if you don't know what your union is, call ISE and ask them. And if you have any questions at all, whether everything's going right or everything's going wrong, be in contact with your union because they're there to help you.
And in general, like, I mean, I've messed up working here. Like, I once was supposed to be working on salary, like under hours, but I had accidentally registered it as a contractor, which I wasn't supposed to do. And I didn't understand really how it was. And I remember being confused because of something that was happening with my taxes. And I remember just going to Wiener Mausstofnern and like emailing them and sending them everything and being like, this is what I did. This is what I apparently should do. What do I do? Obviously I made a mistake. And then they just fixed it. And it was like no stress at all. So like if you have a problem and you contact them and you're upfront, transparent and authentic, like hopefully it should all be solved. I always urge everyone like to just be like super upfront with the government. Don't try and pull anything. People do try, so it's like,
People do try. It is true. But most of the workplace shenanigans that go on are going to be from employers because they know they can get away with it, unfortunately. But unions do their very best to crack down on that and make sure that wrongs are righted. I think it's also a good idea to talk to other foreigners.
Totally, because it's amazing how much employers get away with just because foreigners don't know their rights. And if you have a workplace which is 80% foreign, then they're not going to know how much they're entitled. Oh, I have one more tip. When you look at collective bargaining agreements, you will find out that your union probably has a bunch of perks. And that's something I didn't know about, and I only really found out about a few years ago and started using. But like my union paid for my glasses. And like other things like that. And if you like, they'll pay for your gym membership. They'll pay for like random.
Your Icelandic language lessons.
Yes, they'll pay for Iceland. Yeah, they'll pay for and it, like if you can just literally email and ask and be like, is this covered? Or I see this is covered. How much should I expect? And they'll just tell you, and you send in a receipt, and they cover it. A lot of like unions also offer like summer houses that you can rent through them for a lower price. Our union does. Yeah, there's just like a lot that you can get out of a union and people don't take advantage of it. I think you should look at whatever medical stuff your union pays for and just go through the list.
Absolutely.
Get it all. Like I'm getting laser eye surgery and they're covering a little bit and I'm like,
Nice.
yeah, I'm like,
That's really wonderful.
Yeah, so take advantage of everything your union offers.
Absolutely. I mean, even if you're, and a lot of the hesitancy that foreigners have to talking to the unions comes from the fact that they might come from countries where working conditions are absolutely horrible compared to where they are here. But just because things are better than they are at your home country doesn't mean that they're necessarily right. So know your CBA, know what your union is, and talk to them. Ask them all kinds of questions. They're there to help.
Totally. And contact, yeah, I think we also get a lot of emails often with people telling us about work conditions that they're in and asking if it's right.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
And that's what I always tell them, contact your union. I give them the contact information they need.
yeah, I mean, I hope people take this seriously because I'm so tired of seeing like exposés in like Stunden or something about some like shitty employer that's just like pulling all this shit on their foreign employees.
Yeah.
I'm so tired of reading about it.
But hope armed with this information, you will have a much better time and a much better experience working in Iceland.
Yeah.
So I think that's it from us.
I think that's good. I hope this was informative. Thank you so much for listening. Again, if you want to support our content and you enjoy the tips and tricks cast, consider joining our High Five Club, which is our subscription service just to help us out with everything, and there's some awesome perks. We also offer the High Five Home Club, which gives you delivery to your house in Iceland with our paper. So that's home delivery of the Grapevine. We also have a shop you can check out, loads of crazy cool stuff and gadgets and gizmos and everything there. And that's it. If you have any, again, ideas or questions about living in Iceland or like working stuff here, just email us and we'll maybe do a future episode. So thank you.
Yes. And if there's a tip we missed, leave
Please
them in
tell
the
us.
comments.
Please tell us. We're not employment lawyers.
Right. We're not employed. We've just been working in Iceland a long time.
Yes.
So do feel free to leave additional tips in the comments
like,
below.
F*** unions, my union, F*** me. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to get that. Anyway, thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.